at 10:30. Let me call the roll. Daphne?
Present.
Rolanda?
Present.
Sabrina?
Present.
Okay. About quorum? There are no members not in attendance, I believe, correct?
Patty's here.
Oh, I got Patty.
Yes.
Yeah, Patty. Sorry, Patty.
Present.
All right, so we have a quorum.
Yes. And now I flip to you for your presentation.
Okay. Yeah, the public, was there any public comment, Betsy?
There were no public comments.
Okay, as noted. The approval of the minutes, we will need a vote on that.
Does someone want to make a motion? I make a motion to approve the minutes.
Okay, we need a second.
I second the motion.
Rolanda, seconded.
Mm-hmm. The motion is up for discussion. Any discussion?
Take the roll, Betsy.
Yeah, sorry.
Mr. Russell?
Aye.
Ms. Aiken?
Aye.
Ms. Ullman?
Aye.
Ms. McDuffie?
Aye.
Ms. Simmons?
Aye.
Okay.
5 votes.
The motion passes 5-0.
Yes. Okay.
All right, and then are you ready for go ahead and I'll start my presentation.
Yes.
Okay. Second, and I will share my screen. Let me figure out my screen. Just one moment here. Goes. And can everybody see my screen?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. Thank you all for attending the meeting. It's much appreciated. This is the fourth quarter ending September 30th, 2020 fiscal year. We have all of the members are present. On today's agenda, we'll be talking about the risk information, which is the auditable environment, trending information, significant changes to the audit plan, project, scope of work, or resource budget, any unjustified restrictions or limitations to the auditors being able to perform their work, the 2020 annual audit plan activities as of 9/30/2020, communicated results, calendar year 2020 as of 9/30/2020. So what we're saying there is it'll be the first 9 months of a 12-month calendar year. The follow-up or monitoring activities as of 9/30/2020. Fiscal year productivity measures, those are all 12 months of the fiscal year. Next quarter goals and objectives in addition to the 2020 annual audit plan, and any upcoming committee goals or responsibilities. So let's get started. This last quarter, I had performed the risk assessment and planning for the 2020 year and into 2021. So what you'll see is some significant changes to the high-risk areas for the county. In 2020, there were significant increases in risks in the auditable environment. And a lot of this was due to an unprecedented public health concerns. COVID-19 impacted nearly all of the county operations, from its departments on the front line that the public sees every day, to those support departments that provide the resources necessary for successful frontline operations. The highest risk areas fall into 5 categories: COVID-19 response, organizational changes, technology and cyber resilience, outsourced processes, and changes to laws, rules, regulations, and county ordinances. For the COVID-19 response, the county implemented over the last 9 months. New programs designed to assist citizens affected by job loss and business closures by providing immediate relief, long-term community health, and stability, and a full and robust economic recovery. Some examples of these are like the Small Business Financial Assistance Program, CARES Act funding, Housing and Utility Financial Assistance Program. You may have heard about the R3 program, which is Rapid Response Recovery Assistance Program. And these are in the hundreds of millions of dollars in funding. We also had, under the COVID-19 response, the county implemented public health initiatives. For example, the COVID-19 test sites, temporary hoteling for those that have COVID, but for one reason or another, they're not able to return back to their homes, but they're not sick enough to be in the hospital. Enhanced public health bulletins and personal protective equipment called PPE. Also under the COVID response, the county changed process workflows to align with products and services with the new normal environment. For example, transitioned many of the employees, including the County Internal Auditor's Department, to telecommuting, installed protective measures in county facilities, adjusted hurricane preparation plans, shifted employees to different responsibilities to meet higher than normal demand in some areas of operations, and experience high demands in procurement services. We also had some significant changes to the organizational changes, which is also higher risk. And these include county experience employee turnover in certain areas. For example, we have the county administrator, the Information Cybersecurity Division Director, the Chief Assistant County Attorney, Human Resources Director, the Code Enforcement Director, and then there were several positions in the Water Resources upper and middle management positions. So you can imagine during a pandemic, all of the significant changes that are taking place and a lot of the new technology, the impact of this employee turnover at this time. We also had technology and cyber resilience. The county implemented or is in the process of implementing a high level of technological changes. This includes upgrades to existing technology, replacements, and new technology. Some examples of this is the Oracle SaaS Cloud. This is Oracle, the program that we're using basically for financial budgeting. We use it for inventory and all of those kind of things, payroll, human resources. Almost all of our departments are using the Oracle system, and that is being upgraded this year. That's going to be about a 20-month implementation. The IT service management solution called ServiceNow, Excella. Excella is used by our building department, code enforcement, some of those. DocuSign, which is like electronic signatures. And you can see that there's quite a bit here, including upgrading the 911 system this year. We upgraded Windows 10, expanded the fiber network. We've increased our mobility technology this year and a lot of virtual desktop infrastructure environment. There were a lot of changes due to COVID. Some of these were already in the works and plans, some of them were not. But over the last couple of months, there were significant changes to technology, and there's a lot that we expect in 2021 as well. Also in the risk environment, outsourced processes. The county outsourced processes or brought some outsourced processes in-house. Some of the examples, again, is that Oracle SaaS Cloud. Right now, the county technology services has the Oracle. When we go to the cloud, that will be under the Oracle's system. Construction, utility-related activities. And then there were also some services to citizens. And then also the insurance claim processing that was outsourced to Gallagher, and that's coming internally to save some money and to have more control over that. Recent changes to laws, rules, and regulations with the county. The county was impacted by changes to these written guiding principles. Some of those examples are like the American with Disabilities Act requirements, Family First Prevention Services, that has to do with our child care, the PFAS, that guidelines, those are related to safe water. And then there were some changes to Federal Drug and Alcohol CDL Clearinghouse. Again, these are just some examples. There was many more. The trending information for this quarter, it's anticipated that the Utilities Department and the Public Works Department will continue to move forward with plans to physically move their inventory items into newly built warehouses where the inventory will be merged. If you recall, the last quarter, I had talked a little bit about the project that we had done in this area to assist management with the inventory transformation. The COVID-19 response, again, the county's pandemic response continues to be a very high priority. And it's anticipated that the state and federal financial programs designed to provide immediate relief, long-term community health, and a full and robust economic recovery, those are scheduled to end on December the 31st of this year. Environmental, the county continues its effort to minimize negative impacts to the environment. And that would include like global warming and those kind of things. Financial management, it's anticipated that the county will experience constricted budgets in fiscal years 22 and 23. Those will have a material impact to the county's operations. Major events, the county is preparing for the impact of Super Bowl 55, and that is scheduled to be held in February 2021. Technology, the high demand for technology solutions, cybersecurity and resilience continues to be a very high priority for the county. And then continued from last year, funding for the county's transportation needs continues to be a high priority. There were some significant changes to the audit plan, project scope of work, and resource budget since we've met last between July and September. What we're doing is, because of all of those changes that we had to make, because the COVID-19, a lot of management's priorities had changed, as well as the Board of County Commissioners. So we've added some projects and removed some other projects, and some of those additions or deletions throughout the year you've seen the other quarters. This is the last changes to the 2020 plan for this year. So we're removing, with the board's authorization, business risks. What we did, instead of doing a project, we set up a meeting that we hold with other areas within the county that handle risk, and we have meetings every 4 to 6 weeks. So that's resolved the business risks report. The organization cash-wide cash collections and credit card revenue process, that has changed significantly this past year, but we just didn't feel like it was the right time to go back in right now. There's a lot of other risks that we think are higher. So what we're doing with that is we're just doing some advisory services in this area and just kind of keeping an eye on it. Capital improvement project management process will be removed. Fire safety inspection process phase 2. Homeless services, performance dashboards, penetration testing, policy monitoring, and security incident monitoring. Those two that I just mentioned, the penetration, the security, there was another audit that was performed externally this last year, which we were expecting. And those two areas were covered by Gardner, who had performed that. And if you recall, when we did the penetration testing, that was management's response, that they wanted a deeper dive into technology. So they hired Gardner to come in. Gardner has completed the work, but their report has not yet become public. And it may not, because of public record laws related to security issues. Significant changes to the audit plan. Those were removed that I said a minute ago. We're also going to reschedule the investigations process in 2021, registration activities, cost analysis in 21, and then the state legislation lobbyist process will also go to 21. We did not have any significant changes to project scopes of work that we had not already spoken about in the last quarter. And for the significant changes to resource management, the senior internal audit position is vacant right now, and the assistant to the county internal auditor is taking some time off. At the present time, there are no material restrictions or limitations placed on the county internal auditor or the internal audit function. This is the 2020 annual audit plan of where we sit today. For schedule, we have the vendor master list validation, pre-Oracle SaaS Cloud. This one here, we were already going to do the vendor master list validation. And then with the Oracle SaaS Cloud, the implementation team had requested if we would expand that scope and perform some work now to prepare them as they're moving forward on the implementation. And then we're going to have part 2 on this, where we're going to be looking at it again from an audit perspective, from a little bit different perspective. And then we have those 11 projects down below that we had just talked about that we're going to be removing or rescheduling. Our preliminary or fieldwork stage, we have the COVID-19 advisory services that we kicked off early summer, and we've had a very good response with that. The Oracle ERP county implementation support. This one here is again with the Oracle SaaS Cloud implementation. We brought in Protiviti onto our audit team, and again, that's about a 20-month project. It's about $16 to $18 million. We also have the 2020 conformance with the IG 1310 requirements. This is the QAIP that we perform every year, and that's required by the Red Book standards. And then in the reporting stage, we have code violation process. So the communicator results, these are the ones that we have issued. As you can see, we've issued 4 audits or advisory services, 3 cone of silence investigations, 1 special review project, 2 management assistant advisory services. We performed 4 follow-ups or monitoring of management's corrective action plans, and 2 administrative projects.
And on the cone of silence, are those just normal things?
The cone of silence, yes, those we're required to do through the procurement policy, the board's procurement policy. And what those are is when we have a product or service that's being procured, there's regulations of who can be contacted by a vendor or service provider, and if there's any concern that a cone of silence violation occurred, both the procurement department and the audit services department perform 2 investigations, and then we come together and we have one common result on that. We've had 4 this year. Okay. We also have the follow-up monitoring activities. When we had met the last quarter at 6:30, we had 24. We cleared 9 of those. So we have 15 that are remaining at this time, and those are down there below. We also have the productivity measures. Again, now we're going back to fiscal year. I know we keep going calendar year, fiscal year, but this is fiscal year. So this is a full 12 months reporting. So this year we've performed 3 audit, and you're going to see if there's a little difference between this slide and the last time. One slide's calendar year and this is fiscal year. So we've issued 3 audit reports, 2 management assistant letters, 4 special review reports, 3 cone of silence reports, which is 3.86 per employee. And then we also have 5 follow-up monitoring reports and 2 administrative projects. So our total productivity is 6.87 per auditor. And that's in line with our other years. We're still staying very stable on that, slightly above, but stable. For the next quarter goals and objectives, in addition to the audit plan, our office will be recruiting for the senior internal auditor position. And then I'll also be performing the annual employee appraisal process. Mine will be before the board on the next meeting, which is October the 21st. And then the other employees come a month or two after that with all of the other employees in the county. For the upcoming audit committee responsibilities, there are no responsibilities this next quarter, and that's because we're combining the next two meetings with this one, so you'll be seeing 3 presentations from me today. And then our next meeting is scheduled for January 26th. And you'll be receiving an invitation for that. Does anybody have any comments, questions, or concerns?
Nope.
No? Okay.
No.
I'll stop sharing my screen for a minute. Second. All right. And then let me go ahead then, and I will start the risk assessment planning in the 21 and audit plan. So hold on one moment here. I can switch gears on you. And let me share my screen. Okay. And are you all able to, I don't think that worked out right. Hold on 1 minute. Let me try this again. All right. Can you all see my screen?
Okay.
No? All right, let me try again. Sorry. Why it's not doing it.
There you go.
This time you got it? All right. Press it last. Okay, so this is the 21 risk assessment planning, and we're in this year. You'll see a few changes to this presentation, and we're also doing a formal report to the board this year, and you'll be seeing that on, we believe, on the 21st of October. So let's just kind of go over the responsibilities of my responsibilities and the committee's responsibilities. At the end of the presentation, there will be a responsibility for the audit committee. So my responsibilities are to consult with the county administrator and share information, coordinate activities with other internal and external providers of assurance and consulting services to ensure proper coverage and minimize duplication of efforts. The audit committee will comment to the board whether or not that I had performed an annual risk assessment based on my judgment of risks after consideration of input from senior management and the commissioners, and after sharing information coordinating with the other internal and external providers of assurance and consulting services as applicable. My responsibility, second one, is to prepare an annual audit plan containing an allocation for performing special reviews, projects scheduled for assurance and consulting engagements, and then the last quarter of each calendar year submit an annual audit plan for the following year to the audit committee for comment. The audit committee will consider my department's resources, and that includes the management of resource requirements available to effectively deploy the plan, and then align with the annual audit plan budget, and then forwarding the audit plan to the Board of County Commissioners with the committee's comments. So let's go ahead and go through this. So the Red Book standards, the Chief Audit Executive must establish a risk-based audit plan to determine the priorities of the internal audit activities consistent with the organization's goals. The internal audit activities plan for engagements must be based on a documented risk assessment undertaken at least annually. The input of senior management and the board must be considered in the process. The Chief Audit Executive must identify and consider the expectations of senior management, the board, and other stakeholders for internal audit opinions and other conclusions, and the chief audit executive should consider accepting proposed consulting engagements based on the engagement's potential to improve management of risks, add value, and improve the organization's operations. Accepted engagements must be included in the plan. We were audited in 2017, and the conclusion is that we generally conform to these standards right here to the 2010 standards, that we had a strong assessment and annual audit planning process. And this was audited by the Institute of Internal Auditors. The components of the plan, the county internal auditor's risk assessment combines information obtained from narratives, internal control questionnaires, management self-assessment surveys, current events, performance measures, control environment identified during audits, and regularly scheduled meetings with commissioners, county administrator, executive management, and directors. This is also, if you recall, it, this is a cumulative process. Each year builds upon the prior year. It will continue to compile greater detail of the organization's risks. And during the risk analysis, the county internal auditor considers the risk identified by the clerk circuit court, audit department, as well as the external audit firm, and our financial firm at this time is RSM. And what we did this year is I ran my risk assessment. The clerk of circuit court ran their risk assessment. RSM ran one. And then we met and we compared our results on our risk assessments, and they were all very similar. The planning approach, the county internal auditor considers the county audit department's RSM's identified risks. This is to ensure collectively that there are adequate annual assurance and consulting coverage of the auditable environment, as well as minimize duplication of efforts. So as I'm going through the audit plan in a few minutes, I'll point out who's going to be doing different things on that. The county internal auditor uses her own judgment of risks after considering input from senior management, commissioners, and after sharing information, coordinating. So this next slide here, this is the meetings and coordination efforts that were performed this year. As you can see, all of the meetings included with the senior director of the internal audit. This is the clerk circuit court audit department. And what we did, again, not to duplicate efforts, so all of the meetings that you're seeing here on my screen, Heidi Pinner had also attended all of those meetings. We've met with economic development director and the assistant county administrator, RSM, enterprise solution quality assurance. I met with the commissioners, one-on-one, human resources director, executive staff. They've already looked at the audit plan. We're satisfied with that. The government relations strategic services administrator, the county internal audit committee, that is today's meeting. September 11th, I met with the technology director. Again, there was a lot of technology changes this year, so we wanted to make sure that we took a deeper dive in that area. Management and budget director, the county administrator, procurement director, and then the risk management safety and development director. So that was quite a bit of input from those individuals. We also, again, we look at narratives, current events, those risks that we find in audit projects, internal control questionnaires. I won't go through all of these, but basically what we do is we take all of those risks, we get a rating, then we take the customer measures, and those are they do their own a survey every year, management does. We take their survey results, we combine those, and that's how we get our risk ratings. And then these risks here in the next couple slides, this is a duplicate of what I went over in the first presentation of the COVID response, organizational changes, technology and cyber resilience, and outsourced processes, as well as the recent changes in laws, rules, regulations. So I'm just flipping through those because I've already gone through those previously. So for the 2021 annual audit plan, during the risk assessment planning stage, the plan was discussed and preliminarily reviewed by the county administrator, the executive team, and each individual commissioner. So already have their buy-in on this. And please understand that until the Board of County Commissioners accepts the plan, it is subject to change. So what our plan entails, this is a pie chart of how the plan, what it covers throughout the auditable environment. So you can see, for example, under the Deputy County Administrator, that's a lot of your public safety areas. So, of course, with the COVID-19, you would expect that in those areas. And again, it's public safety, so there's some of those. Code enforcement, for example, falls under there, pet resources, those kind of things. The county administrator, that is when we have something that's a global area where it falls under all areas of the county administrator. The county attorney's office, county internal auditor's office, you'll see we have 21%. In a minute, I'll show you why that's a little bit higher. Development infrastructure, we didn't have anything in that area, but we had just looked at that area with the warehouses about 2 months ago. So that's not getting as much coverage right now. Again, with COVID-19, infrastructure is not a highest risk as you would financial and public safety, for example. Again, with communications, again, that's not a high risk area right now. Financial administrator, again, with the COVID-19 and those hundreds of millions of dollars coming in, that would be significant. The human services administrator, again, there were some changes in this area. There are some risks, but the clerk of circuit court's audit department had just performed some area audits in this area, so we didn't feel like the risk was still significant at this time. Technology, information, again, we had talked about those big changes in technology, right? But the Gardner Group just came in and did a very significant audit in that area. My office will be looking at that big implementation of Oracle SaaS Cloud. And then the clerk circuit court's office is also going to be doing some technology. So that's why you're seeing a smaller amount of mine, although it's a significant amount of my hours. We're talking probably close to 1,000, 1,200 hours this next calendar year, but it only counts as one audit. And then government relations, strategic services, and that's an area we haven't looked at recently. So let's kind of take a look now at the plan. So in the what we have is new assurance projects and other services. So for the plan, this is big picture. I'll drill down in a minute. We have 5 assurance projects and 11 other services. Again, those are normally small. We have one bigger one. So we have 16 of those projects. And so the productivity this year, we're estimating 2.5 FTE. Again, I have an employee out right now. One of my auditors is out on leave, and then I have another one that's we're trying to fill the position. So we're going to conservatively go with 2.5 FTE. If we come in more than that, we can always add projects to the list. So right now, our estimated resource audit, our hours just for auditing is about 3,537. And then down below, I have the other services, what those other services are, and where we're required to perform those because of Resolution R2011, or maybe it's an Ordinance 1324 in some, like the QAIP, now that one is regulated by Red Book standards. But as you can see, these are what other services include, so that's what those 11 are. And here's the audit plan as it stands. Again, this is subject to the board's approval. So we're going to continue with the COVID-19 advisory services, which is a smaller role related to the COVID. Now, the Clerk of Circuit Court's audit shop is taking a very big role in this and is looking at those financial services and those big amount of money that's coming into the county. So this is one of her highest priorities, and she's going to take the big bulk of it. The investigation function process, again, we feel like that that's one of those. It was on the plan last year. I felt it was still significant enough to bring in this year. And that's because, again, we have different areas within the county that perform investigations, but there's no one single process workflow that brings it all together. So we want to get together with those other areas and see if we can tighten that up a little bit. Property registration activities cost analysis. Again, this is the one where we were requested to do that as part of the cloud implementation. State legislative lobbyist process, and then the vendor master list data analysis. And that was another one that was required. So what I'm saying is number 3 and number 5, those were requested by management. Other services that we're going to be performing is we have a very large auto audit software upgrade this year. The code violation process monitoring, this is another part of the property registration code violations. The county internal auditor's quality assurance and improvement program, that's required by the Red Book standards. External auditor repeat financial audit, which is one we do each year. The external auditor the fleet assets disposal to replacement process, that's a monitoring. This one here says ITB. This is a cone of silence monitoring. We've already done the investigation. We have a follow-up on that. The print management services cone of silence, again, that's another monitoring. And then the Apollo Beach, that's another cone of silence monitoring. And we monitor it for 365 days. The Oracle ERP Cloud implementation support, that's the one that I said was really huge. We have my entire audit team is on that, and then we have Protivity. They've brought in 6 resources already. There's going to be more. Again, that's with our hours plus Protivity. We're about 5,000 hours in that audit. It's very big. The Pet Resources Center continuous data analytics. This is something we do each quarter for that department. And then the vendor master list validation pre-Oracle SaaS Cloud. Again, that's preparing management for that big implementation. So this is how our available resources pan out. For the county internal auditor, you can see how my hours are going to be split out. I'm going to be putting in about 845 of my hours directly into audit services. And then the rest, everything else goes into more of the administration and the risk analysis. My executive assistant, again, she's not performing audit services at 490, but she supports me when I'm performing those areas. And then you can see with the audit team, the amount of audit areas that they're going to do with the audit services, and then the other. So basically, in conclusion, the responsibilities of the audit committee, in order to fulfill those, the committee will need to comment to the Board of County Commissioners whether or not I had performed an annual risk assessment based on my judgment of risks after consideration of input from senior management and the commissioners, and after sharing information, coordinating with other internal external providers of assurance and consulting services. And then also, if my 2021 annual audit plan, the hours, those resource requirements that I had just showed you, aligned with the available resources budget. So that I'm going to go ahead and turn that back over to you, Rick. And we would need a motion, second, and to do that.
Okay, thank you. I personally think you did a great job on that new risk assessment, given the COVID change in environment, and more importantly, responding to the stakeholders of reorienting the audit, for that circumstance. Any comments from the rest of the committee on this issue? No? So I'd like to make a motion that, here, let me get the right wording here. That she did perform her annual risk assessment with sufficient input from the commissioners. And as such, approve the plan, audit plan.
Make
I believe we have a, go ahead.
make a recommendation to the board to accept the plan.
Yes, so I make a motion that we recommend to the board to accept the annual audit plan. Do I have a second?
This is
Second.
Sabrina, and I second the motion.
Okay. Well, let's do a vote. Betsy, do you want to do the vote? Call the roll.
Yes, Mr. Russell,
Aye.
Ms. Aiken,
Aye.
Ms. Ullman,
Aye.
Ms. McDuffie,
Aye.
Ms. Simmons.
Aye.
We have 5 votes.
Therefore, the motion passes 5-0.
Then I will go ahead and move on to the deployment of the 2020 annual audit plan. Again, that this is the 9 months out of a 12-month plan. So let me go ahead and pull that up on my screen. Okay, and let me see if I can share this. There it goes. Okay. And can you see my presentation?
Yeah.
Showing? Okay, great. Okay, so this is the County Internal Auditor's deployment of the 2020 annual audit plan. So this is a plan that's calendar years to start in January 2020. Oops. There we go. Okay. So the audit, in this case, the audit committee does have some responsibilities. Considering it, the responsibility include considering if the county internal auditor's resources, and that's management of resources requirements available to effectively deploy the plan, aligned with the annual audit plan budget, and then providing to the Board of County Commissioners the audit committee's comments and any applicable recommendations regarding the performance of the 2020 plan. Okay. So again, some of the information you're going to see in this presentation was in the prior two. There's a little bit of overlap, so those slides I'll go a little bit quicker. But for the resource management, again, this was the resources for this calendar year. So the audit team is composed of a lead internal auditor and 2 senior internal auditors. During 8 months of the 9 months this past year, the audit team was down at least 1 member for 8 of the 9 months. It's anticipated the audit team will be down at least 1 member, and it says 1 member, but quite frankly, I think there may be a second member on and off through the next couple months. Temporary staff during calendar year 2020. The internal auditor's office contracted with Manpower to temporarily fill the executive assistant to the county internal auditor position. This is a contract of service which began in September, and it's anticipated to go through the end of the year when Arabelle comes back on staff. The external professional services. During this year, in 2020, advisors, consultants, and other engagement partners were utilized in the following areas. We brought in Protiviti, who is an Oracle Gold partner. They were contracted to provide enterprise resource planning implementation and risk management services. Services were provided from January and February, and then August and September. These services are anticipated to continue into mid to late 2022. For calendar year 2020 annual audit plan, it was recommended by the county audit committee, and it was accepted by the Board of County Commissioners as planned back in December of 2019. And this was the original audit plan. You see, we had 7 projects that we carried forward from the prior year, and then 9 new assurance projects. And then not listed in here were the other services that were undefined. I just didn't list them here for the sake of time. Adjustments to the audit calendar. Now, again, this is something that that we've gone over a little bit already, so I'm just going to kind of breeze through this a little bit. But in 2019, I had established a risk-based plan to determine the priorities for internal audit activities consistent with the county's goals. On December the 4th of 2019, after considering the recommendations from this audit committee, the Board of County Commissioners approved the 2020 annual audit plan. And then in March is when we had the COVID-19 pandemic hit, and a lot of their priorities, management's priorities, the board's priorities, the internal auditor's priorities had changed. So what we had to do is basically, as a business partner, I had to look more, take more frequent seat at the leadership table and advisory role, and then prioritize to respond to the more pressing needs. So this is what the audit plan looks like as of 9/30/20. So what I tried to do was lay this out because there were so many changes to the plan, things that were added, things that were removed, things where we had different scopes, which we've talked about throughout the year. But I wanted to put this all in one place for you all so it makes it a little bit easier. So as you can see, this is a list of projects over here in the first column. And then the second column, if it says yes, then these were projects that were on the plan. Remember I said that we had these other services undefined. So that's what you're going to see on those documents. If it says yes, then it was just something that was in the plan. And then the third column is the status. And here you can see if the project is in progress, if it's just planned where we haven't started it yet, if it's a reporting stage and we're waiting to issue the report, and then some of these will have an issue date. And on here, the only change that we have on this screen was the external auditor repeat financial audits. This was the RSM, external audit firm performed this. And they did not identify any material repeat audit findings. So therefore, once we had found out that they weren't any, we discontinued the project. So on this one, we do not plan on issuing a formal report on this because we didn't have any findings to review, but we did complete our work on it. So you'll see it's counted that way as being complete. There's additional changes to the plan. On this one here, again, you're going to see where same thing, list of the projects in the first column, second column, if they were already on the plan. Most of these were in other services undefined. And again, you can see the status of these, and we don't have any of those in the comment section of any of those that we're going to be taking off the plan. Again, continuation of the 2020 plan. These are proposed projects that we're going to be rescheduling, or I should say asking the board to reschedule, and there will be a recommendation. This is the investigation process, property registration, and then the state legislative affairs. And on this one here, again, a third of our audit team was unavailable through most of this time period, as well as with the COVID that had hit, we just had determined that the priorities just weren't in this area. So these 3 will be on the next plan. Proposed projects to remove would be the business risk. Again, that one we're already meeting every 4 to 6 weeks with the clerk's auditor, the county attorney's office, managers and supervisors, the second level of the control structure, And what we do is we get together, we talk about risk, we talk about the current environment, and basically the spirit of these meetings has already fulfilled this project objective, and therefore I feel it would be a duplicate of efforts to again go into the business risk and try to help management set up a business risk platform, because we're already providing those risks to that area. We also have this a continuation of the 2020 plan. And here again, first column is the project, second column is if it was on the plan or not. All of these were on the plan. On the status, you can see that we have one that's on hold, and that's that capital improvement project management process. And that's the one that we're going to recommend to be removed. These other ones here are just in the plan stage, meaning that we had not started them, whereas in the capital improvement, that one we had already gone through a lot of the preliminary. We were ready to kick it off before we stopped it. So again, see where we had made some changes. Again, with the cash collections, when the Oracle SaaS Cloud implementation, there's going to be some very significant changes to the way that we handle cash collections and credit cards. So again, I think that it's prudent for us to postpone this project, wait for the Oracle to implement that, and then go back and look at it. But I also want to mention that as we're performing our risk advisory services in the implementation, we are looking at the risks of implementation. And this would be, again, one of those areas where we're going to make sure that the controls are there in the processes. We're also making sure that when it's implemented, that it has the correct control structure in place as it's being implemented. So we are actually touching on all of this. Going to the next slide. On this one here, so basically where we ended up, again, now we're going to the calendar year, so we're reporting 9 months, where if you remember in the last presentation, I was reporting 12 months. This is the 12-month plan, 12 months. We've completed 15 communications. And based on that, at this point in time, we've issued 7.11 as our productivity per internal auditor staff member. So based on that, there are some responsibilities for the audit committee. The committee, what we need is for the committee to give the chair the authority to create and then submit a letter to the Board of County Commissioners regarding whether or not the county internal auditor expended its resources in alignment with the 2020 annual audit plan budget, and any applicable recommendations regarding the county internal auditor's performance of the annual audit plan. So Rick, I'm going to go ahead and turn that back over to you for a discussion.
Okay. I personally think I got the letter already, but what are y'all thoughts on how the Peggy has used resources so far on the plan and the plan changes? I thought it's been done well. It has been adapted properly. But did anyone else have any other comments on that?
I agree.
Okay.
I agree as well.
Okay. Good. Peggy, do we want to share that draft letter yet before doing the resolution, or?
Yep, I sure can. So stop that one. Here it is. Too many things on my screen here. So hold on 1 minute. Let me go ahead and share. Okay. And can you all see this letter?
It's mainly the last 2 full paragraphs for the most part.
Right, yeah. Yeah, this is the standard, just made a little bit bigger for you all. Yeah, this is the standard letter, the first 3 paragraphs down to the bullet 2G. And that basically provides the function that the audit committee is performing. And then Rick had added the last 3 paragraphs here in his own writing.
Yeah. So I'll give you all a few minutes to read that. Okay, if everyone's read it, I'd like to make a motion to designate to myself, the chair, the authority to create and submit this letter with possible revisions to the Board of County Commissioners. Anyone want to have a second motion?
Second.
Okay. I think we had discussion already. Betsy, do you want to call the roll?
Yes, Mr. Russell,
Aye.
Miss Aiken,
Aye.
Miss Ullman,
Aye.
Miss McDuffie,
Aye.
Miss Simmons.
Aye.
We have 5 votes.
So the motion passed. Thank you. And I know I wanted to have Peggy review that letter before formally submitting it, and she was a bit out of the weather. So we'll probably wrap that up today, I would imagine.
Okay, yeah, sounds good. Yeah, we need to, time is of the essence on these. We're trying to get this on to the 21st on the board's agenda. So we'll try to get that turned around sometime today.
Okay.
Get those letters back to you, signed, and I'll
Right.
take a review of those. Okay, great. Thank you, Rick.
Okay. I'm just looking at the agenda. Audit plan.
Discussion of any items for the next meeting.
Does anyone have anything? Okay.
And then the next meeting, we have that anticipated to be held on January the 26th. So Betsy will be sending out an email within the next couple of days for a meeting invite on that. And I'd appreciate if everyone could respond back quickly so we can get that onto the calendar. The other thing is, just so for the public and for your knowledge, Rick, the governor had given us an extension to his order for the virtual meetings. We expect that this will be the last extension. This expires at the end of this month. So our next meeting may be held in person or virtual, but we will have to wait for that order before we can determine how that will be held. Okay.
Okay.
Excuse me, Richard, this is Patty Simmons. I wanted to suggest one last thing. I was looking at the screen while you had the letter displayed, and I could not agree with you more, but I feel like it may be worth mentioning Ms. Caskey's leadership during COVID in particular.
Okay.
There was quite a lot of effort and attention in the materials she shared with us today, and maybe calling out that specifically given that audience would just be a nice feather in her cap. Nobody really anticipated any of what we've experienced this year, so.
That's a good thought. I will incorporate that thought into it.
Thank you.
Anything else? Okay, then I'll make a motion to adjourn. Anyone second?
This is Rolanda. I second.
I guess we, Betsy, do a roll for the adjournment motion. Aye.
Thank you. Ms. Aiken,
Aye.
Ms. Ullman,
Aye.
Ms. McDuffie,
Aye.
Ms. Simmons.
Aye.
We have 5 votes.
And the meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all, everybody. Stay
Okay,
safe.
everyone, be
you.
safe.
Okay.
Great job.
Hey, Peggy, you want to send me any comments first before I make that, insert that sentence, or?
Yep, sure will. Yep.
Bye. Thank
All right,
you.
I'll be back in a few minutes.
Okay, bye.
Bye.